This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Glad you're with us. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. For a Friday in June, we are jam-packed.
Really are.
Jam-packed. By the way, nice to see you back from Chicago.
Good to be back. We had a great time, again, building a playground at Maddock Elementary School in Burbank, Illinois. Thanks to ESPN for giving, when Mike and Mike ended, their gift to us was building a playground in an area that needed a playground. And so Disney and worked with Kaboom, which is a great organization that they have been. I found out Kaboom has been part of 3,000, and now this is the 3,052nd playground build.
Wow.
I mean, that's very incredible. Cool. They're 82nd with Disney, so it was very cool. So Chris and I went out there, and we got our hands dirty. I drew blood, mixing some cement, and I'm a little sore today because I'm not used to that much
work. You put your hand back in the dirt, huh?
I did.
Yeah,
man, I was mixing mortar with my dad when I was about 12 years old doing side jobs. He was a bricklayer, so I'm like, I could do this again. I got the mixing the mortar. All of a sudden, I scraped my knuckles against the thing. I said, I'm going to go do something else now.
I said, you can do it, but not as well as you used to.
Exactly. So. It was a great time, though. Yeah. We have some video and some pictures from it, and we'll get it out there. But the kids were playing on it before it even ended.
Yeah,
before
we're some of it right now.
Yeah, before we even finished the build, the kids were playing on the sport court, and everything went up. It was very, very cool what they do, and to watch how they do it is amazing.
Did they let you guys put a teeter-totter in? I know those are kind
no
of
teeter-totter. There was no teeter-totter. I did. I'm with you. I love the teeter-totter. Not like cherry bombing on a teeter-totter.
Oh, it was the best, but that's one of those things that with the modern times, much like fighting in the NHL, they've slowly phased the teeter-totter out of playgrounds.
Going away from the teeter-totter. I do dig a teeter-totter, though. No doubt about that.
We got that out of the way early, so that's important. Friday morning with championships on the line, did we get the teeter-totter dig thing? Check
that box.
Okay, so here's what we got coming up, man. We got a ton of stuff coming for you today. We have massive news in the NFL, massive news in the NBA. We got a Stanley Cup that's finally been won by a city that's never had one before, and we got NBA Finals that could close out tonight. We got guests everywhere, including Mike Breen, the play-by-play voice for the NBA on ESPN and ABC is going to join us. Marty Smith from Marty Smith's America is going to join us. I don't even tell you why Marty Smith joins us. Just know that Marty Smith joins us.
He's joining us. He's somewhere in America.
Exactly. The Marty Party will be here. Teddy Atlas, our boxing analyst, will be here later on to talk about the big fight coming up over the weekend. And how about this? Rascal Flatts going to join us in the studio.
That's awesome.
Looking forward to that as they continue their life as a highway tour. And they drive through up to Bristol. So we'll see what happens. Got a lot to get to, so let's get started now with what's trending, and it finally happened. DC fans are celebrating a championship. The Caps have won the Stanley Cup, beating the Golden Knights 4-3 on the road in Game 5, the first championship by a Washington Pro team since 1991 when the Redskins, of course led by the guard Mark Schlereth, won the Super Bowl.
You know, and obviously all the players on the Capitals team don't have all that history. Ovechkin certainly a while there, and so many times losing to Pittsburgh to not even get in position to win the Stanley Cup. That's what's been the tough part for them. So when they got over that hump and beat Pittsburgh this year, you thought, okay, are they going to be able to go the next couple of rounds and get through this thing to get to the finals and to win it? So they did. Alex Ovechkin with the Conn Smythe. You know, he's the MVP. He was the man. It's all kind of numbers of people he's joined and all that. It's all great stuff. But man, I heard some of the interviews after, and we'll get to them on the ice. And that's the part that I know you would have had if you get the national title. That I never got close to a national title in college, but to the Super Bowl, that end product. That's what I'm so jealous of, and of my career. Is never getting those hugs on your field of play, that just raw emotion. Listen to TJ Oshie talk about, from his teammates to his family to his father. What a story. Getting all that, man, I was so jealous and happy for those guys.
Yeah, you get to really trap this whole thing in amber. Like you preserve that moment forever.
Tremendous
once you
Jurassic
finally
Park reference.
It's really
by
good.
The way.
Yeah,
I do it because I care about you
amber.
guys.
Very good.
I do it because I care about you guys. But it's true. Like in that moment when you finally get to exhale or scream or whatever that sort of cathartic moment is. You just stop it all. That mental image lives in your mind forever, and that is for certainly the players on this team who are there for the work every day. But to your point, not all those players suffered through all that.
Right.
All the fans did.
Yes.
And so for all of the fans that have had to say our year over and over again to the point where it's become the butt of a joke, they finally get to let out that moment for that city and that area.
Hey, Junior, I have to give you massive props because that's the second great 90s movie reference I've heard from you today. The Amber, Trapped in Amber, obviously Jurassic Park, the mosquito with the dinosaur DNA. But as I was coming in, you Occam razored something.
Yeah, you did.
Nicely done from the movie Contact in 1997, Jodie Foster. I don't care. This is the Caps' time to party. You can run the clock. We're playing this thing out.
Also, you never run the clock out on Contact. That is a tremendous movie. It's
Absolutely.
a triumph of cinema.
Otherwise,
Stanzik, obviously.
Cinephile, what a great waste of space.
Uh-huh.
Right?
There
One
you
of the
go.
great lines of all time. You mentioned that moment. Here is how that moment sound by the great John Walton on the Caps Radio 24/7.
Eller for the draw. And as the puck drops, the words that DC fans have been waiting to hear since 1974, the Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. It's not a dream. It's not a desert mirage. It's Lord Stanley, and he is coming to Washington.
Okay, goosebumps.
Just-
Legit
just
goosebumps hearing that, right?
Awesome. And how about the shot right to Washington, the fans that were there watching? Because part of it is I'm sure people are like, man, that maybe that's when you give up so you can go win it at home. You don't do that.
No.
You win when you could win it. I mean,
When you've had the history of the Caps, no.
You do not mess with that. They were down 3-2 going into the third period, score those 2 goals. The last one, with about 7 minutes to go. You get that taken care of. The fans will be just fine as they're cheering back in Washington. You take care of your business.
Forget the fans. You take care of this if you're the Caps players because you have a chance to have the after party for your Stanley Cup in Las freaking Vegas.
How about that?
That is the reason alone for that. You're saying, boys, we got to go ahead and close it out tonight. Let's get us one, A. I'm trying to go and play some craps at the Bellagio.
The other thing that's amazing, this one I will give a gentleman's sweep because they lost the first game.
Yeah, they did.
And then they won the next 4.
So
I'll give it that way. That way I'll take a gentleman's sweep, okay?
Yeah, and as far as Alex Ovechkin and names he's with, a lot of lists, but this is a great one. He's a 4th player to win 3 Hart trophies. That's regular season MVP and the Conn Smythe playoff MVP, joining Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, and Bobby Orr. In the meeting after the show, we need to get rid of the clock.
No, we'll go back into it. There's a lot to get there, but it is a lot of fun.
I just hate it.
I do too. We'll talk a lot about it a little bit later. We are confident though that party is still raging in Vegas for the Caps. I mean, that's the best thing about being there and doing it there. You can just go all night long.
Now, here's a question.
I got to finish the read. Confident Steve brought to you by National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply. Understand fully. Mortgage confidently.
I don't know if they did or not. Did they go home last night?
I don't know.
Or did they stay?
I don't know.
Because I'm with you. I would like to party in Vegas.
To stay in Vegas.
But I don't know if they left or right. I have no idea.
You push the plane.
I got to believe
you
they
do
they
whatever
left.
you got to do.
Gotta believe they
you
left.
push the plane.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, there are slots in the airport, if you want to
That's
play
fine. I'm trying to hit the slots in
not the
Caesar's
same.
Palace.
No, I know. Not the same.
I'm swimming in that fountain.
All right, we continue on the opposite side of the elation that's being felt in Washington, D.C. is the confusion that's being felt in Philadelphia. 76ers president of basketball operations Brian Colangelo resigned effective immediately after forensics showed that he didn't have it, but his wife admitted to operating Twitter accounts that criticized team members and propped up Colangelo. This is the team announcing that Thursday. Sixers coach Brett Brown will oversee basketball operations on an interim basis.
A lot to get to here. My take on this is while his wife was running the accounts, the kind of information that was going out, there's no way she's just going to know that. So I heard you talking about it, Mike. You know, when he's coming home, you have your supposed safe space at home. You're just kind of, talking about the day and talking about things that are bugging you. And his wife put it on Twitter. So, I mean, he's indirectly responsible for that and can't be, it got compromised. So the trust factor is gone. So basically the mutual resigning is, hey, dude, you can resign or we'll fire you. Well, how do you want to work this one?
Yeah, we'll make this very simple.
Yeah.
And I think the Brian Colangelo side of this is easy now. The way he went about it could have some ramifications for him on the home front, but Brian Colangelo is not going to be a general manager in the NBA.
But don't
again.
you think that he had to talk to his wife before that statement just to try and salvage his career, right?
I pray he talked to her before.
If not, I mean, forget his work life.
Yes, no, the rest of that will devolve into hell.
Yeah.
But for the 76ers, they're in an interesting spot.
Will devolve into hell.
Into hell. Absolute hell. But the 76ers are in an interesting spot now because going into what you could argue is the most important offseason this franchise has had in a long time, the pressure is on them to make this decision first in a way it wasn't the last time.
Yes, and to that point, we've got some interesting sound from our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, about just what it means for this job to be open with this team. Let's just say people would be running, sprinting, take my resume, take my resume, take my resume for this team and what they're set up with. We'll get into that a little bit later. As we continue what's trending, so we had the Stanley Cup Finals close out Thursday, and of course we could have the NBA Finals close out tonight. The Warriors are looking to become the first team to sweep an NBA Finals since 2007. That year the Spurs swept the Cavs, and this year it's a chance that the Cavs could be swept as Game 4 is tonight in Cleveland.
Yeah, another list that LeBron will be part of, not the list you want to be part of. He can get swept for a second time. He'd be the fourth NBA MVP to be swept twice in the finals. He would join Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. Wes Unseld as well was swept in 71 and 75. Jabbar and Magic in 83 and 89. The only other player to be swept twice in the finals was Michael Cooper with the Lakers in 83 and 89. So not a list you want to be on. This is fait accompli. It's either going to be the sweeper, I would say 5 at the most, is going to be this. And then I think we've already started, getting into the LeBron sweepstake of just what's going to happen next for him.
Listening to some of the off-day comments, feel
LeBron's
like he has
there.
too.
Yeah, LeBron's there already.
He is ready to turn the page on this. See you later, Cleveland.
We'll see what happens tonight. Again, Mike Breen will join us a little bit later. We're excited to get his take on what has been what we are calling perhaps the most competitive sweep potentially in the history of the NBA Finals. That's how we're selling it. Damn it, we're staying on that hill.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, again, this could be a great 3-day run if you think about it. Thursday night, Stanley Cup Final ends. Friday, the NBA Finals could end, and then Saturday, we could have another Triple Crown winner. Justify looks to become the 13th Triple Crown winner tomorrow at the Belmont Stakes. He's the odds-on favorite, which means he's even, and we'll start from post one, where since 1905, 23 horses have won. That is the most from any slot at the Belmont.
Yeah, so he's won the first two, obviously, the Derby and the Preakness, both on sloppy tracks.
Right.
60% chance of rain. For another
if you're Justify, are you not praying for rain if you're the Justify team?
You would think so, especially because they weren't sure how it was going to go at the Derby when it was sloppy, and it looked pretty. And Justify looked pretty good. But again, this is the longest race, so we'll see where this one ends up.
Yeah, well, especially with a sloppy track, you start to think the stamina comes into play even more than ever.
Yeah, you wonder, from a race strategy of which I would have no business talking about, but
not a big furlong guy.
But just thinking in my head, I mean, you want to conserve a little bit, but how much can you, depending on where you are on the track to make that last run in a longer race. So we'll see if it gets to Justify or not.
We had this discussion yesterday because it happened so recently, because we had a Triple Crown winner just a couple of years ago. Kind of softens the blow.
This is Russell Westbrook. Averaging a triple-double, isn't it? We went crazy on it last year, and this year it's like, oh yeah, okay, he did it again.
Steal my takes.
Look. I know you feel that way, Junior. It still would only be the second time in 40 years. Triple Crown, we talked about this before. If it happens, all we know is the horse sex will be glorious.
Yep. There we go.
And really, that's all that we need.
Isn't that all that matters?
That's all we need to know about
end result.
About it. So
yeah.
The end result and the cover, I think, is what we're talking about. And then over the weekend, former undisputed junior welterweight champion Terrence Crawford makes his welterweight debut on Saturday when he faces WBO title holder Jeff Horn in Vegas at 9:30 p.m. on ESPN+.
Yeah, so he could become the 6th fighter in boxing history to win titles at lightweight, junior lightweight, and now welterweight. He's 32-0, 23 knockouts, 30 years old. Remember, Horn last year beat Manny Pacquiao
in Brisbane.
First title defense coming to the States to do it. He is 18-0. I was reading about this fight and looked at the long list of analysts, boxing analysts, and projections. One person picked Horn.
Yeah.
One by decision.
Who was it?
I don't know. I don't have the name in front of it. Everybody else basically Crawford TKO, no matter what round. So, and we'll again, Teddy Atlas in talking about it a little later. About
maybe he's the one.
Where this? No, he was not the one. I don't believe.
We'll find out if he's a fry cook or a master chef when we talk to Teddy later on.
There you go. That's right.
My favorite metaphorical boxing analyst out there. But this is going to sound like shilling, but I honestly mean this. for boxing because so much of the sport for so long has been a pay-per-view based model. I remember when this fight happened last year, and as someone who's only generally interested in boxing at the basis level, to be able to watch that was exciting. And now, selfishly, for the way I consume things, to know that this is on Plus, to know that I can watch this on my phone if I'm somewhere and can just go up there, that's going to where if you want to continue to try and make boxing a bigger part of popular culture, you're going to the right place. Like, I hope more places realize that giving you that option, that mobile ability, is a very powerful tool.
Nicely done, and it might not have been shilling, but it did turn into a great piece of shill.
Honestly, download the app. ESPN Plus is tremendous, guys. You're missing out if you haven't subscribed already.
I'm not saying I disagree with you, but that was awesome.
I am a shill.
What a suck-up.
Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance.
Jimmy.
Commercial insurance through Progressive protects your business and your dream. Choose from over 30 coverage options at progressivecommercial.com.
Return my calls.
There you go. No. So as we go back to the Stanley Cup Finals, I mean, You look at how the Caps were able to pull this off, and if you're a Caps fan, the way they did this was the most improbable way ever, because no Cap fan ever had optimism at any point in the past because of their failures, because of the way they've always been able to come up short. They're now just 8-5 in series where they had a 3-1 lead. They've blown all these kinds of things. And they started out down 2-0 to the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round. They're only the 4th team ever to come back and win the Stanley Cup after starting the first series down 2-0. It is the exact opposite of what you expect out of this Cap franchise based on their own personal history.
And I believe only the second team joining the 91 Pittsburgh Penguins to be down in every series, right?
Correct.
Did you just say that?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, I didn't know if you said that.
I made sure I didn't say that because I was doing something else, but you're right.
Right, okay. To be down in every series. And listen, it's not going to matter. All their names are going to be on the cup and the whole deal. But there has to be something from the players and the fan side to know they beat Pittsburgh en route.
Absolutely.
Okay? Again, 50 years from now, it doesn't matter. You won the cup. You know, whoever you had to play, you played, you won. But there has to be something a little sweeter about the fact that the team would knock them out all the frickin' time that they went through to get there.
Well, and for Ovechkin, that's your personal foil in this league. You've been a guy with all the individual accolades in the world, and you've watched Sidney Crosby match you in that and exceed you in the ability to get over the mountaintop. So to go through that guy, I'm sure in a place that he would talk about at parties, Ovechkin would admit is something that mattered a lot to him.
It certainly did, and we'll play Ovechkin and what it meant to him as he won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the most valuable player in a minute. But when you mention the 91 Penguins, it brings back one of my favorite memories, and it's something else that happens because of the recent controversy about White House visits.
Right.
Okay, so when the 91 Penguins visited the White House that year, President George Bush was there, and Herbert Walker, obviously not W. And, obviously he wasn't a huge hockey fan.
Right.
And so they're there. The Penguins are on the South Lawn, and President's blah, blah, talking. And he turns to one of the Penguins, and he says, "And you are?" And that Penguin said, "Mario Lemieux."
Oh, my God.
If you're only going to know one guy.
Wow, know that one.
If you're only going to know one guy, that's the guy you should know. That one.
Others at the White House are just dropping their head and go, "No, he didn't."
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm the greatest player in the world. I'm Mario Lemieux.
I put that on the staff. You got to have him prepared. If you were briefing the president for this,
got to have a better blue card.
You would give him one thing. That should be front and center on the packet you hand him. Said, by the way, this is Mario Lemieux.
That's the guy you need to know.
Yeah.
And by the way, to be fair, now on both parties, when the Red Wings once visited the White House and Bill Clinton was in the office, he was talking about the great play of one of their best players from Cranbrook, Ontario, Steve Yzerman.
So again, I agree. That's on the staff. That's on the staff.
You got to prep these guys
better. Prepared. Absolutely do.
A, know who the best player on the planet is, in Mario Lemieux.
Yep.
B, know who the best player on the team is.
Uh-huh.
It's Steve Yzerman, not Steve Yzerman. And the best player, obviously, on the Caps is Alexander Ovechkin, Conn Smythe Trophy, and it finally came together.
It's just dream come true. That's why you have to play. That's why you have to work hard to get this moment and share with your teammates, share with your family, and with the fans. It's something special.
Unrelated, by the way, to hockey, the other great political gaffe was former Senator Ted Kennedy, who in summer of '98 called him Mike McGuire and Sammy Souser.
Yeah, that didn't go well.
Those were also good ones. But Ovi finally gets there, 14 years, and finally he has something that topped that incredible This Is SportsCenter commercial with Steve Levy when he was stealing files through the roof for the Russians. It's pretty funny.
One thing he did consistently the entire time, he got to Washington in 2005, and started, and the game day skate after their morning skate before the game at night, and at that point, 12 total players had chicken parm.
There you go.
As a dinner. They had a place, I forgot, I'll find the name of it, had them bring over chicken parm to them, chicken parmesan on game day after your morning skate. It went down to about 6 players, and then I believe it was last year or the year before, it was down to 1. And as one of his teammates said, that not every, in this health conscious age where the players are eating better, he said, not everybody eats well all the time. A couple of his teammates said, we tried some of that one time, way too heavy for us. They broke down how they prepare it, all the different things that are the chicken parm. Every single game day.
Just enjoy the chicken parm.
He would have the chicken parm at home there after the morning skate. He would have chicken parm every single game day. That's awesome.
That is tremendous. And by the way, now that the Caps have won and Alex Ovechkin has that Stanley Cup, who's the best athlete out there?
Great question.
That doesn't have a trophy?
Great question.
Is it Clayton Kershaw? Is it Larry Fitzgerald, who I lovingly call Elfitz? So put that out there on Twitter. We'd like to have that one for us for a social play at Golic and Wingo. Who's the next? Who's next? Is it Mike Trout? Is it Adrian Peterson? Who is that guy out there that is the most accomplished athlete in his sport that has yet to win a championship? All right, coming up, perhaps we should add architect to the resume of one of the greatest athletes of all time, because it sounds like someone's planning on building something.
Golic
and Wingo.
and Wingo.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I got choked up there talking about the Caps. Sorry. And it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And the Straight Talk is that the NBA Finals could end tonight. Now, I think admittedly we all don't want it to end tonight because we want the drama. We want to play this thing out as long as possible. But it certainly feels like it's not going to be a gentleman's sweep, but just a plain old sweep, as the Cavaliers are at home for Game 4. The Warriors are up 3-0. So let's just say it's a foregone conclusion that eventually this series is going to the Warriors, because no team in NBA history has come back from 3-1 down in any level, let alone the NBA Finals. So that leads us to the natural progression to the next level, which is what happens to LeBron James after this season is over. And in his off-day pressers leading into Game 4, you sort of got the feeling that even though he still has a game to play, LeBron is headed there as well. Listen specifically now to the last half of this answer.
Golden State, because of Steph's injuries early on in his career, his contract situation, and then them drafting Draymond and drafting Clay, and them being under the contracts they were in, allowed their franchise to go out to get KD. And so they win a championship, and then we play them, and we come back from 3-1 and we beat them. But that was the best regular season, probably the best team I had ever played against. They go 73-9, and then you add one of the best players that the NBA has ever seen. I mean, so now everyone's trying to figure that out. How do you put together a group of talent, but also a group of minds as well, to be able to compete with Golden State, to be able to compete for a championship?
And that last part is very, very
It
interesting.
is. Yeah, it is.
Not because LeBron is always. What does everybody say about LeBron? Not only is his play, but his basketball IQ is through the roof, through the charts. What's the best play? How do we do this? How do we do that? And then he says, so what do? You need to find the best collective basketball minds to find a way to beat with Golden State. And you have to believe that's going to be the driving force for LeBron this offseason.
Yeah, and what's interesting is one of the teams that could be heavily involved in this just lost their GM in Brian Colangelo, or president, I should say, of basketball operations and such in Colangelo. Yep. And so I know Brett Brown is taking over the day-to-day as well there, as well as being the head coach. But to me, that's the team, because this is what we're talking about now. I think we're really done talking about this series. What we're talking about is LeBron. So what's the best fit for him? I saw the reports about 4 sources out or in the entertainment world, not in basketball, say the Lakers. I still don't buy that one bit. I heard our own Brian Windhorst say he doesn't think the Lakers or the Rockets. I think it really is, if you stay in the East, it goes to Philadelphia. A team right now with $25 million of cap space, they need $35 million. They can get to it. There's a process where they can get to it. And what helps there is you still have the young guys with the Fultz $8 million and Simmons $6 million. You know, obviously Embiid's making $25 million, but there's a way they can get to, they need $35.4 million because no matter where LeBron ends up, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, his first year salary is going to be $35.4 million. So that's what they need. And they can do it. There's a way to do it in Philadelphia, but is that the best fit as well? Because you sit there and say, well, he's going to handle the ball some. You know, obviously the point guards handle the ball somewhere as well. Well, who are the guard? You know, you got Ben Simmons. Fultz is supposedly going to be healthy next year. But unfortunately for that team, if LeBron is handling the ball and making moves and letting those guys shoot, those guys aren't the great. Markelle Fultz, all the points he was scoring were layups because he had trouble with his shot because of his shoulder. And we know Ben Simmons has trouble as a shooter as well. So that kind of makes it an interesting situation, but still one of those where you're like, wow, get all those guys matched up. I would need someone more with a better basketball IQ than myself to say, could that actually work when he has the ball and you have those other guys that are really not the greatest shooters in the world right now?
It is interesting because Ben Simmons, played the point guard, but the way he played wasn't really a point guard. You know what I mean? And you have LeBron maybe being that point forward on some level, which could really open up Ben Simmons' game in a way that he wasn't able to play this year.
Well, in a way that he wasn't able to play because he doesn't have the ability. Like Ben Simmons doesn't have the ability to be a shooter, so he was limited to being basically a pure point guard in that regard. It gets interesting to me because a lot of it looks obvious from here. We see very obvious collections of places that match up with what LeBron is purporting to want here, which the words I keep hearing are support and then now basketball IQ. So you look at collections of that. That's why Houston makes sense, because he trusts Chris Paul and James Harden's basketball IQ. You can trust Mike D'Antoni and his body of work in the NBA. In Los Angeles, he trusts Magic Johnson, I'm sure to an extent, as a guy who's a great basketball mind, a player he has built very much in the image of likeness of, has talked about Lonzo Ball glowingly at different points in the season. And then there's Philadelphia, who has all this collection of young talent and who has an opening at GM with a guy in David Griffin who we know LeBron James valued. That seems to be the most obvious phone call that's going to happen, right? Philadelphia has to at least reach out to David Griffin, a guy who is predicted on multiple networks throughout this season, LeBron James to the 76ers, who seems to think that the 76ers have a leg up in this, and who now, conveniently enough in all this, is in a position to be the guy making the decision.
Am I just that out of it to think that the Lakers are no option here? To think that if LeBron and Paul George go to the Lakers, that they're going to compete in the West? I don't see it. With the other players they're going to have there, with Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma. I mean, all of a sudden that team is going to be the one that takes down. I don't see it. I don't buy it one bit. And forget the whole Hollywood garbage. I mean, come on.
See,
you do not have to live in L.A. to be part of the entertainment industry.
LeBron James lives in Akron/Cleveland, and he's one of the most well-known people in the world.
Where did Peyton live? Where did Brett Favre live? Now Aaron Rodgers live. I mean, you don't have to do it. Those days are over.
I get it. He has multiple homes in L.A. for what it's worth. So if we're going to count real estate. But the thing I would point out is all of this is about room and options for LeBron. And regardless of what is currently there in Los Angeles or what we think might be there, he's at least got space to play with. And again, if we're to believe that this is valued, basketball minds that he might potentially trust out there. I would ask, even with that construction there with Paul George, Kyle Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball, do you think that supporting cast is better than the one he has in Cleveland right now? Because I do.
Oh, no, I'm with you there. But no, I'm talking about the options, the Houston option, the Philadelphia option, and the Laker option. Give me a break. It's not even close to saying the Lakers would be a better option than that. And you're talking about basketball minds. Listen, Magic Johnson's one of the greatest players ever. How long's he been in the position he's in? How long has Pelinka been in the position he's been in? Let's ease up on them making these magical moves all of a sudden to make it a great team.
But he would have support, and I'm sure he would feel like in that situation where you've got people that are either that he knows, like David Griffin, or that he knows in a personal sense, like Magic and company, you would at least be heard in a way. You would be valued and supported in a way that he hasn't felt in Cleveland.
Senior, I think you're missing one critical part of this puzzle with the Lakers.
That would be?
We're all forgetting the scene after the game where the Cavs played the Lakers where LeBron and Lonzo put their shirts over their mouth so no one could hear the words they're saying. Clearly,
talking to one another?
Clearly they were talking about how this is going to go next year.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't do it.
Go ahead.
They put their jerseys right over their mouth. So
You'll go to the West and you won't have one shot.
That's what it is.
You will not have a shot to win.
This year, that's the Straight Talk.
That's it, huh?
Brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G.
You just mentioned
networks.
Houston.
And getting into for Houston, it would be I can't read through all the Riley.
So
thank you for all the info. Nearly impossible for them to cap-wise. You got Harden, and obviously you got Chris Paul would be getting the max. Would be $205 million.
Yeah.
Now they wouldn't be paying LeBron $205 million, but he'd have to be making.
We need to stop talking about that.
Golic
I tell you what, a great sports night last night, no doubt about it.
and Wingo.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Oh, happy Friday, everybody. Glad you're with us. We made it. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Junior is so into the song, he is banging the desk.
Ready, man. Rascal Flatts is playing tonight. I'm trying to beg some tickets out of these guys.
That's yours if you want it by Rascal Flatts, and songs like that are featured on our Amazon Music playlist, the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at AmazonMusic.com. Renews automatically. Cancel anytime, but why in the hell would you want to do that?
Love those guys.
We are presented. They'll be here a little bit later on the show. We're excited about that.
Love them.
We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It's Friday, and sometimes some Fridays feel better than others just because you put in a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we put in a lot of miles this week.
Yeah, we have.
We were in Cleveland, and then we came back. Then you went to Chicago for a very worthy cause. It was great to see you out there with your wife getting that stuff done.
Yeah, it was really nice. This goes back to when Mike and Mike ended the gift.
Wait, there was a show before this one?
There was.
Get out of here.
For like 18 years.
Never heard of it.
And ESPN, as a gift to us, gave us the chance to put a playground in an area that needed a playground, a place for kids to play wherever we wanted. And Chicago was the area we zeroed in on. And Disney took over from there. And a great nonprofit called Kaboom, nationwide nonprofit, which is now, this is their 3,052nd playground that they have put up around the country. They're an incredible group who organizes everything. And the community gets incredibly involved. And this was at Maddock Elementary School in Burbank, Illinois, about 450, 500 students who a lot of them are able to walk to school. So this playground, I don't know, it would be great during school time, but out of school time as well, to be able to walk over there and parents meet over there. A great kind of community place to meet up. And while I would definitely thank Disney and Kaboom and ESPN for this, the community that showed up, the people, the volunteers, the parents, the kids from the school that all, bought into this and were involved in this was incredible. So we went there. I went there from Cleveland. Chris met me there. My wife met me there, and we spent the day for at least for a couple hours before we had to fly back here, helping them build. Our job was the sport court. We'll throw some pictures up and such as well. There was a sport court and there was a playground as well. And it certainly took the better part of the day, but so many volunteers. It was incredible, really incredible. The kids were there helping. It was a very, very cool thing that Kaboom does. I think it's the 82nd one Disney has worked with Kaboom on building these playgrounds, but really a cool thing, and it brings a community together. That's the whole thing.
And you mentioned it. You weren't just there cutting a ribbon and then leaving. No. You guys got your hands dirty. You bloodied your knuckles a little bit.
I did. My dad was a bricklayer, so probably when I was about 12 or 13, I would work side jobs with him, tearing down steps or chimneys or driveways and putting up new ones, and we'd have to mix mortar. We call it mixing mud, and mix the mortar, and I was doing that and scraped my knuckles and started bleeding and had to play it off.
You okay?
Because everybody put on gloves, so I had to be this manly former D lineman and not put on gloves. And the first thing I do is I scrape my knuckles and they're bleeding, and I had to play it off like it didn't really bug me, but it didn't really bug me. Well, but I saw, you got to mix the mortar right. You can't make it, I would mix it. My dad would walk over, say, too soupy. and have to start over again. It'd be brutal.
So what's the official name of this playground? Does it have an official name?
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't think it has. There's a sign that says it's from ESPN and such,
Okay.
Mike and Mike, and has me and Greeny's name on it and such for that's where it was donated there, but it's at Maddock Elementary School, which incredible. The principal there has been there for 6 years, and she's been trying to get this going for a while now. It happened this year, and now she's leaving to go to another school. But
well, she's accomplished her
goal.
She's
very, very happy that
goal.
she got it done before she was able to go. So such a cool thing to be a part of. We really enjoyed it.
And by the way, you had a really rough couple of days because not only did you scrape your knuckle, but your eye is still looking like Draymond Green poked you there because of the dog.
Yeah, I was playing. I saw my brother Greg's new dog when I was in Cleveland. My brother Bob has a couple of dogs. I was playing with their dogs. One of them kind of caught me in the eye. I'm not blaming the dog at all. We were roughhousing and playing.
You are blaming the dog.
No,
you are a horrible person.
Great dogs that they have. And one, I just got caught in the eye a little bit, and I'm toughing it out like LeBron does. That's how I roll.
Rub some dirt in that eye. You'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Let's get to what's trending. And it finally happened. The Caps are Stanley Cup champs after beating the Vegas Golden Knights 4-3 on the road in Game 5. Interestingly enough, the Caps clinched every one of these playoff series on the road.
Down 3-2 going into the third period. They scored 2 goals in the third, last one with about 7 minutes to go. And the demons that were cast aside here, both for players who are on the ice losing time and time again to Pittsburgh, and the fans for as long. It's been 1991 since the Washington Redskins had that championship, how long they waited. And I really do think from a player standpoint, because they're on the ice playing it makes it that much sweeter that they went through the Penguins to get it. Now, it wouldn't have diminished their joy of winning a Stanley Cup had they not, but I think that adds to it for the whole journey, because when you see those guys celebrating at the end, it's the culmination of the entire journey that they've had, and part of that was beating their nemesis to get there.
Beating their nemesis, getting into a conference final for the first time, and for Alexander Ovechkin, it's getting off that list, and it's one we threw out to the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, but the best to never do it, the best to never get over that championship hump. And I thought it was interesting. Rachel Nichols hosts The Jump here, is a big Caps fan, and I saw on her Instagram story covering the NBA Finals, she was with Charles Barkley last night, was actually talking with Charles about that on her Instagram story, about, being one of the guys that unfortunately never got over that hill, and what it's like to watch a great like Alexander Ovechkin finally be able to get rid of that for himself.
And for this is more than the game. If you want to really see what it means, remember these athletes are human beings. They're not just robots. Listen to the TJ Oshie interview.
Yeah.
One of the great players on the Caps, where he was very great. He talked to them, and finally he's like, can I go celebrate this with my family? And his 2 daughters, who are Instagram stars, he went and skated with them. They were on the ice. And he told the story about his father. He didn't tell, he said his father was there. His father has Alzheimer's. His father was his coach when Everett, Washington. And then they both moved to Minnesota, where he played high school, obviously a hockey haven there, moved there to play hockey in high school, and talked about his father has Alzheimer's and his memory is getting a little cloudy, and how, hopefully he'll remember this one and he was there last time. Right. I mean, it really humanizes these guys. Great stories. And so many players have stories like that. It's just very cool to hear.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel the same way when we go through the draft process. People think they're a product. No, they're a kid, basically, and they're trying to figure something out on a very public stage. So congratulations to the Caps, and we'll see what happens going forward with them. Meanwhile, big fight tonight. This weekend, rather.
Yep.
Former undisputed junior welterweight champ Terrence Crawford makes his welterweight debut when he faces title holder in the WBO Jeff Horn in Vegas, 9:30 Eastern on ESPN+. If Crawford wins this fight, he'll become the 6th fighter in boxing history to win titles at lightweight, junior welterweight, and welterweight.
30-year-old is 32-0, 23 knockouts as far as Crawford. Horn, last year beat Pacquiao. And now coming over here to defend his title, just about everyone in the world. We'll have Teddy Atlas in a little later, picking Crawford by TKO in this one. So we'll see if Teddy feels the same way, but it's leaning heavily in that way.
You know what I'm going to say? Download the app, check it out.
There you go.
You're our guy. We appreciate that. And then there's this. ESPN's reporting the Patriots wideout Julian Edelman is facing a 4-game suspension. That, according to Adam Schefter and our Field Yates. The suspension is for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing substances policy, according to league sources. It's under appeal if it goes through, and sometimes these things are overturned, sometimes they're not. Edelman would forfeit about $500,000 in base salary.
Yeah, he will, and as you go forward, you look ahead to say, okay, what does this mean for the Patriots? What it's going to cost them. You look at Patriots' most yards from scrimmage last year, Brandon Cooks, over 1,100, he's with the Rams. Deion Lewis, over 1,100, he's with the Titans. Danny Amendola, 659, he's with the Dolphins. The only one with over 1,000 still there is Rob Gronkowski. So, but they're so good at finding that next guy. I think Richard Sherman's one of the guys that actually won on appeal.
The Adderall thing.
I don't know if Edelman is going to win this appeal or not. So, and there's more than a few players now who are missing the first 4 games. We can get into that, but the Patriots always seem to find a way, but this is a guy missing from the ACL last year all season, and now got to sit the first 4.
Yeah, we talk about those weapons, but we remember there are a couple of promising rookies they brought in. Braxton Berrios from Miami, who is cut straight out of the Patriot wide receiver mold. You have Sony Michel, their late first-round draft pick, the running back out of Georgia, who I think of the two was the more complete running back. Nick Chubb, a more traditional downhill runner. Sony Michel, a little more in the mold of that modern back. So the Patriots, if they can survive 4 games without Tom Brady to start a season, they can survive 4 games without Julian Edelman.
They missed Edelman all of last year, and they made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they almost won it.
It's amazing.
And they won a Super Bowl the year Gronk didn't play. Right. I mean, they're crazy. We'll get into that because there's a lot of issues there that may be bubbling over with some of the tensions that have surfaced this past season with the Patriots that are involved in this story. We'll get to that a little bit later. But there's something else in football that came out. The Hall of Fame is one of the great moments every year where I get to go when I do the Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony. It's so much fun. You get to see all the old Hall of Famers, and every year it's just an amazing thing, you know. And the classes are always unique and interesting. And we're really looking forward to this year's in Canton, Ohio. We'll be there in August. But one of the members of this year's Hall of Fame class has decided not to show. Terrell Owens, who had to wait a few years to get in, has decided. He released a statement yesterday saying, having visited Canton, Ohio earlier this summer, I've decided to not go for the ceremony and have my celebration somewhere else. And there's a lot to get into here. And first of all and foremost, let me just say, that's certainly his right.
Absolutely his choice.
I don't think I've ever heard of a living Hall of Famer not show up for his enshrinement ceremony. But again, that's certainly his right and his choice. That being said, I wonder, and I hope he's not doing this out of bitterness. Because obviously he felt he should have been in before he got in this past year. Remember, he purchased a Hall of Fame jacket.
Yes, he did.
Not an actual one, a fake Hall of Fame gold jacket, and wore it around on some sports talk shows because he considered himself a Hall of Famer, and that's fine, and that's right with the vein of T.O. But I just wonder if 15 years from now, if he does go through with this and doesn't show up for his induction ceremony, how much he's going to regret it.
Yeah. Because
you can only do this one time. There's only one time where you can stand with all the greats to have ever played this game and sit there and say, I now am in the most elite fraternity anyone can be in my sport. It's like being drafted. You can only walk across that stage one time and get that handshake from Roger Goodell and get that jersey and get that, hey, my God, all that hard work I put in, it's here and it's paid off. And I'm really concerned, and it's his right to do whatever he wants. I'm not saying that. A large part of me believes that 15 years down the road, he's going to, I can't believe I did that.
Mike, I'll let you chime in. I'm going to read first the statement from the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame President David Baker. We're disappointed, but we'll respect Terrell's decision not to participate in the enshrinement. While unprecedented, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the nearly 5,000 volunteers and the entire community are committed to celebrating the excellence of the class of 2018 that will kick off the NFL's 99 season. And went on to say there will be no more further comment about T.O. as far as this is concerned.
It's interesting. I think a lot of this, and the draft as a comp is interesting to me. The draft has a little more uncertainty. You're waiting to hear something that you don't yet know. But a lot of guys choose to skip that too.
Not a lot, some.
I mean, very notable guys.
Baker Mayfield was not there last year. Miles Garrett was not there the year before.
Joe Thomas famously went fishing. Everyone celebrates it in their own way.
But it was never out of spite.
It was never out of spite. But listen, we all in this need to be careful not to project too much of our own desires on this, because all of us, as people who will not sniff the NFL Hall of Fame and people who do not know what it's like to be one of the greatest at something that you do to that level that Terrell Owens is at, project what we look at in this situation and say, man, you might regret. He very well might, but that's also an our vantage point thing. That's not a his vantage point thing necessarily.
Listen, that's why we'll all say it's his choice to do. And if he carries this out, which I don't think he will.
Oh, you think he's
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
But Trey, I agree with you. You would imagine there would be some regret.
Yeah.
Mike, I think it was on your show this morning. Did someone compare it to a reunion a reunion, like a high school reunion, that people that don't go to that, like, and I think that what the caller said was, you know, if you didn't like the way you were treated by some of your classmates or school or anything, and there's a reunion, why would you go if you don't like the way you were treated? And here's where I disagree. I think T.O. is putting everything under the umbrella. Okay? It took him longer to get in than he should have. But listen, T.O., you're not the first or the last. Okay? You're not the first or the last person that had to wait a little bit longer when then everybody thought you should have got in. Maybe not a guy in the same part of the hall as you, but how about Harry Carson? Well, Harry Carson had to wait for years, and Harry Carson said, when I was doing Mike and Mike, said on our show, if he got voted in, I will not go or take me off the ballot. And then what happened when he got voted in? He went to the ceremony. Correct. He went to the ceremony. So again, T.O. can do what he wants. I think his anger is at the wrong place. The voters, they're not the Hall of Fame is separate.
Yes.
Okay? The Hall of Fame that weekend, that has nothing to do with the voters. The voters decide who goes there. If he wants to be mad at the voters, that's one thing, because it took him a while to vote him in. But this is where you're going to make your stand against people who had nothing to do with that. This is the weekend for you. Forgetting even that ceremony, the dinner the night before, Trey, you've been at.
Yes, it's the gold jacket.
Get the gold jacket.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, so I think he's putting this on the wrong people. He can be mad at the voters. I think the voters are nuts for what they did as well. But to me, that's separate than this group at the Hall of Fame for the induction ceremony into the greatest thing you can get as an individual, not the team and the championship. But I'll add this. There are going to be a lot of players. I think Deion Sanders already has been one that says, I want to talk to him. I think, listen, T.O. loves the spotlight. T.O.'s getting the spotlight right here. And T.O. is going to have all these great players coming at him saying, you got to do it, you got to do it, you got to do it. And he's going to be the focal point. And then I think he ends up going.
You think it's?
I think he ends up going, but I think he gets what he wants of it. He wants the attention. He's an attention seeker. He is. He has every right to do that, but you can't tell me he's not an attention seeker. He is an attention seeker, and he's going to get attention for this. And if enough people he feels come at him, the greats, not us, could care less what we think, but the Deion Sanders of the world, other Hall of Famers of the world say, oh, you're going to regret this. The same things we're all saying right now, but if he hears that from Hall of Famers and other greats, that he may say, get that attention he wants and say, you know what? I'm going to go now. I'm going to go be part of this. That's how I think this may end up.
And it makes sense. I'll be very interested now to watch if it does play out like that. What the motives are here fascinates me because, again, we get caught in the trap of wanting everyone to value something the same way we do.
Right.
Maybe that Hall of Fame brotherhood doesn't matter a whole lot to Terrell Owens. Maybe he would rather celebrate this accomplishment with the people that had his back throughout all this. Because the one thing, and I would ask you guys this, because I don't know how abnormal this was. Yes, Terrell Owens had to wait longer than he wanted. He's not the first, and he's not the first in that by any means.
He wasn't even the first great wide receiver to do it.
Yeah,
Chris
exactly
Carter.
Right.
Chris Carter, who, by the way, was the second guy to catch 1,000 yards.
Did he wait 6 years?
6 years. Behind only Jerry Rice, had second guy with 1,000 receptions. Who was, when he retired, arguably one of the best three wide receivers to ever play. He had to wait 6 years. So it's not like they're picking on, it's not like you're the only one. I want to be clear about one other thing, and I'll let you finish. This bothers me so much. He should have gotten in beforehand. There's no question about it. T.O. should have gotten in beforehand. But you're not the only guy that's been through this. Don't act like they're singling you out. That's not the case.
But this is what I want to ask. In all of those other cases, when those people had to wait, when their Hall of Fame case was stated and talked about, were they as publicly slighted as Terrell Owens was? And I understand that he brought a lot of that on himself with the way that he acted, but were they as publicly dragged through it as he was? Because I feel like everyone, when this went on, we were having that run of that topic of conversation, sports talk and TV and everywhere else talking about Terrell Owens, was his, status as a teammate, were all the things that had nothing to do with football as widely discussed with them as they were with Terrell Owens.
To your point, no. I mean, and the one we'll bring up is Chris Carter. Chris Carter, it was not talked about all his shortcomings as a teammate, because he was, I played with him in Philly. Unfortunately, it was when the time he was going through his drug issues, and thank God the life got straightened out, and he went on to have the Hall of Fame career in Minnesota. But to your point, no. I mean, we had our own people in Hall of Fame. Bill Polian.
Yeah.
One of those guys saying, I would not put this guy in the Hall of Fame. So you're right. He got dragged. He definitely got dragged through the mud by his peers.
Because you said this is about the voters. No, like you said, Bill Polian and some other Hall of Famers made it very clear, I wouldn't want you in this group with me either, because I am making making this the trial of Terrell Owens, the teammate, Terrell Owens, the serial free agent, Terrell Owens, the everything but football player in that. So I look at that and say, you know what? Maybe if part of that felt personal to him, that's okay, because it sure as hell felt personal when we were all going through that year tour.
Okay, and that's a fair point. Again, we're talking about the idea here on Golic and Wingo, which is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance, with insurance for cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and commercial vehicles at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. We're talking about the idea that Terrell Owens is going to boycott his own Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Let me just say a couple of things. If you really wanted to get back at the voters, who are, by the way, the weekend is not about the voters. You're exactly right. It's about being there with that brotherhood, that distinct fraternity that you earned the right to be in. What better way to get at him than having a platform where everyone's going to listen to you talk for as long as you wanted about that situation? That's point A.
Right.
Point B, the other thing that bothered me mostly about his statement was, I've been to Canton, I've seen it, I think I'm going to go celebrate somewhere else. Yeah. I can't tell you what this Hall of Fame weekend means to the good people of Canton, Ohio. They roll out the red carpet for these guys. It is the prom, the adult prom for Canton, Ohio. They put all of their time, their efforts, their energy into volunteering to make this the most special weekend for these guys. And that statement to me felt like a slap in the face to everybody who puts in the hard work to make sure those
That was how you read that? Because I didn't read it that way at all. I think,
how did you read it?
I read that as, I went to Canton, Ohio, because is that where they do the actual announcement? You're in the hotel room, or is that at the Super Bowl?
That's at the Super Bowl.
But he said, I went to Canton, Ohio, and I decided. It sounded like it was an epiphany he had there. I didn't read it as, I went to Canton, Ohio, and you know what? I don't want to be involved in that.
Then you know what? I'm willing to concede that, but that may be my own bias looking into it. But again, I think he should have been in as a first ballot Hall of Fame. I want to be clear about that.
We all feel that. And I guess it all depends on his reason, because we've given separate reasons, possibilities. Yeah. If it's the voters, then I think, he's taking it out on the wrong people. But to Mike's point, if it is his peers, because there were plenty of current, former Hall of Fame players that spoke up and said, this guy shouldn't be with us.
Now, how many, when you say plenty, I can't remember that many.
Enough to where, you know what, maybe a guy who is not predisposed to valuing all of that brotherhood that you talked about. Because you said it's about the brotherhood. No, it's about celebrating the fact that he had a Hall of Fame career.
Correct.
He doesn't need to celebrate it with those people. He doesn't need to value that. He can value and appreciate what he did, what the people closest to him that he valued put into that day. Maybe, and you know what, maybe that's me assuming too much, too well for his motives in this, because yours is a distinct possibility, the setting that you laid out, that this is one big reason to get more PR aimed at T.O., but it just seems like we do an awful lot of projecting in these situations, and maybe I'm guilty of it too right now.
I think to your point, Trey, I completely agree with you. If he goes through with it and does not go, I agree with you. I think he, down the road, will absolutely regret it.
All I'm saying, we can talk about this a lot more. That's my only point in this, is there's going to be some point, if he does go through with this, if he's honest with himself, he'll say, man, I really wish I had done that, because it's a special thing, and as so few people get to experience it, I think he'll regret it the rest of his life.
Bottom line, it's a very long ceremony. It's one less speech we're going to have to listen to now.
That's good for me, running the event.
I remember you saying to the people when it used to be on Sunday and you had to get to the airport, this would have been a godsend.
Fly into the car, but I'd still like to hear what he had to say, though.
I'm with you.
He's an interesting guy.
Golic and Wingo.
It was all sort of one big, giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
ESPN ABC play-by-play voice Mike Breen now joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Mike, always good to talk with you. The last time I talked with you, we were in New York for the Paul McCartney concert, so it's been a while. Good.
Hello, my gray-haired brethren.
Yes,
there
exactly right. Hey, if the two choices are gray and gone, I'm taking gray every time, my friend.
How you doing? Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, Mike. How are you, bud?
So we have been calling this the most competitive potential sweep in finals history, because every game, it's sort of been there down the stretch, and then the Warriors have found a way to pull away. Are we in any way close on that?
Oh, I think so. That's why it's so disappointing. It's 3-0. It should be 2-1. We should be talking about a potentially classic series. That's the disappointing part. Because they really are. I thought Cleveland would play better than most would, but I figured it'd get a win or two. It's a shame, because it could have been great. Who knows? Who knows what we're going to see tonight? Maybe Cleveland does what they did a couple of years ago and makes it a series. So there's always hope for that. We always root for 7-game series.
Are we still at the point with Golden State, not so much because we'll see the potential sweep here, that this is going to be the team to beat for a couple of years, even though when I go back to the Western Conference Finals, that went 7 games and Houston was actually up in that series?
Mike, you know as well as anybody, you can never tell. How many times have we seen over time where a young team, or at least their core is young, they win a championship, we say they're going to be in the finals for years to come, and something happens.
Right.
Guy gets tired of being with a certain group. Guy wants to all of a sudden be the man. Injuries, which obviously we hope doesn't happen. Sometimes selfishness creeps in. It's hard to predict, but right now this group is still playing so well together. They're still sacrificing. They still enjoy winning so much that it's going to be hard to imagine they're going to break up. There's a couple of contract things coming up, but I don't think it's going to be an issue for this group. So I do think they're going to be there, although I do think the Rockets are going to be strong next year. And depending on where LeBron James goes next year, that can completely switch where the power is going to be in the NBA.
No question about it. Mike Breen with us, ESPN ABC play-by-play voice for the NBA Finals. And there's a lot to get into in what you just said, Mike, which makes this so much more compelling. Even after the finals are over, the NBA offseason is always the greatest. Our own Rachel Nichols asked Kevin Durant about his options, and that's one of those players that we're talking about that might be moving on from Golden State. And he seemed to be pretty adamant that he was going to stay with the Warriors. And I think we've got this construct now with Golden State that where people are buying into the idea of success more than they are with money. I mean, Klay Thompson was asked about this earlier. He said, yeah, I could probably make more money somewhere else, but I get paid really well and we win. I mean, if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, this has to be music to your ears, what you're hearing from these guys.
I think, Trey, that's been a change in the NBA in recent years where it used to be a guy wouldn't say, all right, I'm going to go to a team to try and win a championship until much later in his career, way down the end, last few years. It's different now. I think today's younger players really do put more of a premium on winning than they do being an all-star. You know, for a long time, you could use the phrase that players define their games by how many points they scored, at least young players. Today, players define their games by how many wins you get, how many championships you compete for. And I think that's been a change just in the overall mindset of the younger players, plus the fact that, okay, if you stay with your team, you're going to make more money than if you go to another team, your original team. But what's the difference now for some of these guys? All right, I'm only going to make $110 million as opposed to $150 million. That's a big disparity, but at the same point, you're settling now for an unbelievable amount of money. So I think it makes that choice a little bit easier for a lot of young players.
You know, sitting there doing the broadcast with a couple of guys who have coached, and one obviously played as well, and Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy. What do they do? They think if it's over tonight for the Cavaliers that LeBron is going to move on to another team?
You know what? We've talked about this last night at dinner, actually, and it's you know, we could speculate as much as anybody. They don't have a feel one way or another. I mean, they could guess, but it all depends on what his priority is. Is that priority to win the championship? We know that's one of them, but is the priority to do what his wife and his kids want to do? You know, if they say, hey, dear, or hey, dad, we want to stay in Cleveland, he just might stay. And I know most people don't think that's going to happen, but have you guys noticed, because I feel that in the last couple of years, he's more at peace with himself. He's not as worried about what people are saying about him anymore. He won his 2 titles in Miami. He became the hero of forever in Cleveland. And does he want to win more championships? Yes. But he's not as, I don't think he's consumed by what people think of him in terms of counting the amount of titles. He's very comfortable at where he is and what he's become and his place in league history.
And Mike, that's what's interesting about this, because at this time where you're right, I think he's at that place. I think he's finally getting the recognition that some were so begrudgingly willing to give him because of what he's been able to do in his 15th year, because of the team that he has around him that has gotten to the NBA Finals. I made this point earlier. I'd love to get your perspective on it as a guy who's covered the NBA for so long. To me, LeBron getting this Cleveland Cavaliers team, which, by the way, has been remade, 4 times in the regular season through the postseason alone, is the equivalent to Michael Jordan getting a Bulls team to the finals before Scottie Pippen and all those other guys showed up.
Yeah, I would agree. It's extraordinary what he did this year, and again, because of the roster overhaul, all the drama, The fact that, he had to play, although he wanted to, he played every single game for the first time in his career, and the amount of responsibility or burden, whatever word you want to use, that he had night in and night out, in a year where many thought that he wasn't going to get there because you had some pretty good teams in the East, for him to go through, 3 elimination games before getting to the finals. It's incredible what he did. So I would absolutely agree with that. And that's, again, all part of him just adding to what he has and where he's at this comfort level in terms of his place in the league history.
So, again, we'll see. It could end tonight as Mike Breen is with us. We'll call in the NBA Finals on ABC. Does a great job for ABC and ESPN all throughout the year. We just heard the call by John Walton of the Caps Radio 24/7, and it gives us goosebumps every time we hear it. Have you heard the call, by the way, Mike? Have you heard the call of John Walton?
I sure have.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, as a guy who knows you're going into a game tonight where there may be a potential, clinching scenario, what goes through your head? Do you run through some thoughts as the whole process plays out, or you just let it happen organically?
No, I think you have to give it some thought in terms of what you want to incorporate in the final call. If you don't, I think you're doing an injustice to the viewers, because you have to come up with some kind of summation. I don't think you script it. I don't think you rehearse it, but you have to have an idea of what you want to say, and then try and make it in a spontaneous way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
no, it does.
It does. We absolutely get it. And you know what? We're all hoping for a longer series, so we hope you don't have to make that call tonight. But if you do, I know it will be spectacular.
Well, one of my favorite things every year is when the buzzer sounds for the final game and a team wins the title. Here you have these world-class athletes who make millions of dollars. All of a sudden, they act like little kids. The expression of joy that you see. It's like none other. It really isn't, because they're all again, they're these special players who carry themselves a certain way, and then that all goes out the window, and they're like little kids on Christmas morning.
Yeah. It's very cool.
It's like Kevin Garnett, anything is possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's great. Well, Mike, listen, we'll be watching tonight. We'll be listening. Enjoy the game, and I hope you get an epic call if it is, and quite frankly, I'm hoping you'll do that 3 more games from now.
Thanks, Trey. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
Mike Breen does such a great job.
Golic and Wingo.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
We're talking boxing. There's only one guy we got to talk to. Yep. That's our guy. One of the greatest and most colorful guys you'll ever want to talk to, and that's Teddy Atlas. Teddy joins us now. And Teddy, listen, Jeff Horn's a title holder, but I'm hearing you're giving him no shot to win?
Do you believe in flying kangaroos? I'm just wondering. I'm just curious.
I don't believe in flying kangaroos.
Okay, either do I. No chance. No chance for flying kangaroos. No chance for Jeff Horn from down under to do this, unless there's a headbutt. And I'm not even being facetious right now and in any way being mockery with anything. But Horn does come in there with his head. He does get cut up. There is a rule in boxing. I don't know what their rules they're using in Vegas exactly tomorrow night. But after 4 rounds, if there's a cut, and they don't stop it before 4 rounds, it goes to the scorecards. So is that a possibility? Is that a X factor? Is that, one of those things way out there that he could get ahead early and then, the fight gets stopped before Crawford gets to him? I guess that could happen. But other than that, no, there's no chance. Crawford, the one thing that people are pointing at, if they want to point to Horn, is that Horn's the naturally bigger guy. He is. He's a welterweight his whole career. And of course, Crawford, with his greatness, is going to his 3rd division, weight division. He went from lightweight to junior welterweight. He dominated all of them, and now he's going to welterweight. But guess what? I got news for you, for the Horn people out there that are hanging their hat on that he's the bigger guy. To me, that's an illusion, because Crawford he's got the skeleton. He's got the frame to fill into a welterweight. He's longer, he's taller, he's stronger. For me, you know what that equates to? He's bigger. And even more important, he's better. Horn does a lot of things wrong. He reaches in, he goes back straight. When you do those things with a top fighter, and Crawford for me is number 2 pound for pound in the world, and you could flip-flop those. Him and Lomachenko number 1 and 2. It's kind of like, what's your taste? Do you like the Kevin Durant? Do you like LeBron James? Do you like finesse? Do you like power? Crawford's got everything, and he's got power. I think that Crawford gets rid of Horn within 6 rounds. The only thing that I'll qualify a little bit that has stretched it out even to 6 rounds, quite frankly, is that Crawford is dealing with his longest inactivity period of his career, 10 months. So there could be a little rust, a little adjustment early on, where Horn, one of his best physical attributes is that he's got pretty good legs. So I don't know how big that ring is. It's probably got to be as big as Brisbane for him to really be able to use I know everyone loves everything big in Australia. Well, they better hope that it's a really big ring. If Horn uses his legs early on, and again, Crawford's a little rusty from the 10 months inactivity, maybe he lasts to the middle of the fight. I'm saying 6 rounds, baby.
Yeah, we got to have you stop sitting on the fence in these opinions, Teddy.
He's the best.
So let me ask you this. You know, you hear in boxing sometimes with a champion that along the way you protect them a little bit of some of the fights. So here, unless it's a have-to fight, are Horn's people doing him wrong by making this be his first title defense with a guy that nobody thinks he can beat?
Well, the promoter's thrown him to the wolves. I won't sit in the fence. I'll be consistent. I will not sit in the middle of the fence. Yeah, the promoters, he put him in there with Pacquiao when Pacquiao was at, I didn't think he won a Pacquiao fight, but when you fight in an outdoor arena in Australia, down under with 55,000 people, guess what? Sometimes they vote for you. And you know what? They voted for him. And Pacquiao was on his way out. He's a diminished fighter. So all of a sudden, it made sense. He could make a little money over there. He was undefeated. He was the new kid in town, so to speak. And now, guess what? Gig is up. Time is up. Those things, they don't have long shelf lives. Now the promoters, they can be heartless. Now it's time, to push it up, put them in there, and like I said, you're on your own, baby. Now it's time to cash out. Now it's time to take Crawford, the promoter's top fighter, one of his top fighters, to take Crawford and say, hey, I'm going to give you a title. And that's what they're doing. Look, you still got to go in there and earn it. Don't get me wrong. Anything can happen. You still got to go in there and throw punches. But they're basically giving Crawford, and Crawford doesn't have to have anything given to him, because he's good enough. But they're giving Crawford a title. Yes, you want the truth or you want some BS?
We want the truth.
Oh, we got the truth.
We need the truth, Teddy. I can promise you that. By the way, I also...
Can you handle the truth?
Come on.
Can you handle it?
I need you on that wall, Teddy Atlas. I just want you to know that. But here's another question I got for you. The Triple G Canelo Alvarez fight is off again. What do you make of what's going on there?
Yeah, listen, there's a PED problem there. I mean, at least people, think they have pretty much proof that Alvarez has been on PEDs. They suspend them. The Nevada Commission, they were forced to do something. These commissions do nothing. But they were forced to do something. The whole world was watching. You guys were watching. We were talking about it. So they had to suspend them. Listen, the money is still there. I wouldn't say that fight's gone yet. Because when there's money involved, everyone said that Bob Arum and Don King years ago, they hate each other. Two vicious guys never get together. All of a sudden there was money. Guess what? They got together. So in boxing, when there's money there, don't lose faith. You know what I mean? Just keep your hand on your wallet. I mean, you should do that. But don't lose faith that the fight won't get made. So eventually it might get made. But right now, I think with everything going on with the PED speculation, also with time moving forward, you got to remember, Triple G, Golovkin, he's not a spring chicken. The other guy is 26 years old, Canelo, 27 years old. Golovkin, what's he, 35, 36 years old? He can't sit around. He's got to move forward. But is that fight completely gone because with the money potential still being there? No, it's not. For now, yes.
Teddy, you're the best. And you know what? There was no BS in any of that. That's why we need you on that wall. That's why we need you talking about these fights. Again, you can see the fight tonight, or Saturday night rather, 9:30 on ESPN+. Teddy, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Teddy.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or just ask your smart speaker to play Golic and Wingo. Plus, you can check the guys out live weekday mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ESPN News.